Hey friends, Justin here. Join me for the season finale of And Just Like That. Can you believe we've made it through the whole season? This was a good episode. It ended unexpectedly. There wasn't this grand wrap up that I and some of us that have been talking have had expected, but it was interesting and it was cute. So let's just jump right in. It is a snowy day here in Dallas. We've got maybe 3/4 of an inch of snow on the ground, and I'm not loving it. But anyway, let's get in. So the show opens and carries on her podcast. And to me, it's a little bit of overkill. As we find out later in the episode, it's been almost a year since Big passed. And so she's using that as humor. They're trading, sex stories and breakup stories. And she interjects, "Yeah, my husband, I'm I can trump you guys because my husband died." And you know, the way that you grieve and the way that you lose people, it manifests in different ways. So there's no judgment about the loss, but I felt that it was a little bit of overkill on the podcast. I don't know if you guys agree or what you thought. The whole season, I've just thought she's not a great fit for this podcast. We quickly jump to date number 3 with Steven. And it seems like it goes great, at least for Steven. They're suited for each other, their conversation is good, they're able to joke, about their situations, and it even ends in a kiss. When Seema, Carrie calls Seema and they talk about the interaction, and that's what was interesting. So Seema's with her new guy. They're smoking Dunhills. They're in a hotel that they've been in for 3 days, and the passion is there. And Carrie talks about how, I guess because they're so broken, having to ask permission, can I hold your hand? Can I do this? She says it was just lips on lips. There was no surprise in it, no fireworks. And I wrote down, permission is not passion. If you have to ask if it's okay to kiss the other person, it's kind of prescribed, and I understood that from Carrie. Really sad about it because, as we've talked about, I like Steven. I think they could be a good, mature, and fun couple. They drink together, they laugh and joke. As I think they're at lunch or dinner, and Miranda, Carrie talks about the fact that she wants to see Big on the other side. That because of the kiss, she thinks that, Big has sent her a message through the lamp and the light bulbs. And Miranda basically kind of freaks out. And this was interesting to me because she says, religion is just guilt. That we've already talked about this. There's no afterlife. What are you guys going to say to me that the Easter Bunny, that we're still, the jury's still out on the Easter Bunny? But this is what I wrote. Miranda has things because she's leaving Steve. She's jumping around. She's reinventing herself. She's not being honest at all times. Miranda has things that she doesn't want to face. And people that have guilt tend not to want to be spiritual or believe that there's any judgment or an afterlife. And Carrie, on the other hand, having gone through life and, having gone through what she went through, all she can really hold on to is hope and faith that you will see your loved ones again. Miranda hasn't had to go through that and have that life experience yet. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was an interesting glimpse or look at faith and the different paths that people take. But, because Miranda is not really wanting to face herself, there's no way she wants to face mortality or the thought of, the beyond. She texts Samantha. to tell her about the date, and they talk about the fact that, the guy is just not big. The passion is not there. But Samantha is still emotionally unavailable, The rabbi, and what is the rabbi's name? I've got so many pages here. The rabbi is hilarious. Rabbi Jen. She's a mess. She's hilarious. And she comes out and she basically tells the truth. She says Rock is a complete disaster. The things we've been talking about, guys, here on our reviews. Rock is a mess. She's not taking things seriously. She is totally disconnected from her family, from tradition, from everything that's important to them. And the rabbi just says, not much I can do, let's just face reality. Let's do this in English. Let's, blah, 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 blah. And, Charlotte has already decided to have a they mitzvah, to, have a trans rabbi officiate the ceremony. But, as we find out later, Rock is just totally done with labels. Rock is just not interested. So then we jump to Miranda and Shay at the club. She sits Miranda down in between her abuelas. It was like the gray hair committee at the club. No offense to anyone with gray hair. Let me tell you something. If I didn't shave it off, I'd look like Sanford from Sanford and Son. But, she kind of sits the family together and she starts to sing. I wrote here, snooze, snooze, snooze. I didn't need you to sing, sweetheart. But that's just me. I'm not a big fan of Che. I didn't need the musical, but whatever. What did you guys think? She has a good voice. It ended up being cute. But was it necessary? But what we find out is that she's moving to California. She's leaving New York to shoot a pilot. And she's leaving Saturday. So she's not told Rambo or Miranda personally through a text or a phone call. She's waited to bring them all together at this club and spring it on them, all at one time. Now, Miranda has a life. She's got work. She's got school. She's got an internship coming up, etc., etc., etc. So I think it was necessary for Che to say, hey, this is coming up. This is something I'm previewing. If all goes well, this will be what my life looks like coming up. And what does that mean for you? But Miranda's going. She's decided that she's going to go to Los Angeles, and good for her. I am so glad, after all of the ups and downs and the turmoil, that Shay has recognized that she has responsibility for and with Miranda. Miranda has made a lot of changes in her life, and where you go on your next journey, Miranda deserves to be there. I liked that, I also loved that the podcast is over. It resolved itself. Carrie didn't have to quit. So Shay's moving. She effectively, even though they could do it remotely, Shay says, I'm done with this. I'm leaving New York. I'm off to Los Angeles. She moves on whim quite a bit. So if there is a season 2 of And Just Like That, we'll see how that dynamic works with Miranda. Sorry, guys. Miranda stops by to see Professor Naya, to tell her that she can't accept the internship. Things have changed in her life, and she's going to up and move to Los Angeles. We find out that Andre is out, basically, under the premise of going on one of these tours or whatever the case is. I didn't even bother to listen too deeply, but essentially he's out of the house. Professor Naya says, we're going to do an experiment to see that if being out of each other's presence, we miss each other more, and we can recognize that being with one another is more important than our differences. That was mature, but hit the road, Jack. Carrie meets with John's brother. First thing out of his mouth is, "Where's Big?" And I froze, I froze just like she did. And we find out here in this scene that it has been close to a year since Big's death, and he's still sitting on Carrie's shelf. John wants the Big's remains, to go to the family crypt in Connecticut. And that's a choice, and he says, "Carrie, you also have a place here, And I think Carrie thought in that moment, I'm not ready to end my life. I'm not ready to make those decisions, And so she says, I have to do some more thinking about myself and where I think Big would, want to rest. Really interesting, at the engagement party for one of the podcast members, I was glad that he has other things going on, and that the ending of the podcast wasn't the end of the road for him. Do you know what I mean? But he's getting engaged, and a hunky producer, walks up to Carrie at the end of the engagement party and says, basically, I saw that podcast was not a perfect fit for you, but you are a best-selling author. You're Miss New York. I think a podcast that's suited for you, that speaks in your own voice, I could get behind that and I could produce it. And I hadn't even thought about her doing a podcast. I just thought that type of lifestyle wasn't for her, but it clicked. I said, that is a good idea, to talk about the things that are important to Carrie, to connect with people that are on her level. So I thought that was cool. It was really, really sweet, really, really touching when Carrie lays down and Big speaks to her in the dream and says, basically, it's important to me that you are free. And it tells her two things: that Big wants Carrie to be happy and to move on, but it also lets her know where he wants to be sent off. And it's the bridge, I guess, that they got engaged at in Paris. And it's good for Carrie. It's a good idea for Carrie. So, they've decided, or Carrie says, hey, the three of us, me, I've bought the tickets, I've got the time, let's go to Paris and let's send Big off together. And it sounds cute. It sounds like a nice, supportive trip. Meanwhile, in the background, so back at the They Mitzvah, Rock has thrown a grenade. She is not going to go through with it. The people are there, the caterers have brought the food, everybody's having a good time, and Rock says, I don't want to be Jewish. I don't want to be a boy. I don't want to be a girl. I don't want to be a New Yorker. I don't want to have any labels. Oy vey, What a time to be having this communication. But we'll get back to Rock. I've got another thing to wrap up with Rock and the family, because I was so annoyed with Rock in that moment. That was my snap reaction. But then I have another thought about it. Miranda is having guilt. They go in the restroom and she's kind of confronting Carrie, or they're kind of in it about going to Los Angeles. And here comes Rabbi Jen. She's crazy. She's a funny character, and I hate that she just came in the last episode, because she's really, really funny. But she helps put things back in perspective for Rambo and Carrie. And, Miranda's not going to go to Paris. She's not going to spread herself that thin. If love and, following your heart is the journey that you're on right now, go on it, And so Charlotte says, well, girlfriend, you owe me a trip to Paris because, I was looking forward to this. Harry and Charlotte at this point are bribing Rock. What do you want? A new iPhone? Do you want an Oculus? What is it going to take to get you there? And Rock. That's when Rock basically says, it's not about a thing. It's about who I am. Lisa Todd Wexley talks to Charlotte and says, breathe, girlfriend. This is an emergency, yes. But you have spent all of your time catering to other people, to their whims, their thoughts, their emotions. What's going to make you happy here in this moment? What do you need to do for you? And I wish it had been resolved in another way other than her standing up and being mitzvahed. But I liked LTW's speech to her, that it's time for you to take back a little bit of power and regard for yourself. So I sat there and I watched Charlotte sit there and be bat mitzvahed, and I says, wow, Rock is going to sit there and watch her mother basically humiliate herself. And I didn't like it. I didn't feel good about it. But then I thought Charlotte should have asked Rock what she wanted a long time before the day of the event. With all of these changes going on, with the dropping of labels and the dropping of this and that and the other, they should have checked in with Rock a long time before the event. And so I thought about it, and Charlotte put herself, Charlotte and Harry put themselves in that position. This girl was she was never serious about it. She was never passionate about it. She was never going to go along with it. And so trying to feed their own happiness, they set themselves up for failure is where I'm leaving that, because I didn't like Rock sitting there watching her mom stand up and take her place, but as a teenager, it happens. And sometimes you don't have the strength, you don't have the courage to stand up and speak for yourself. So, I've been there. So I have to give grace where I can. Carrie goes to Paris alone, and she's wearing a gorgeous, gorgeous orange gown with pink gloves. Her hair is beautiful. I mean, she just looks amazing. She really, really does. And is finally able to release big. I don't know if it's the CN or what river, that bridge goes over, but she's able to release big and start to move on a little bit in her life. And I liked that. I liked that we've sent Big off. She texts Samantha, and I thought I'm stupid, but I thought for a moment, I said, Samantha may show up. She may show up. But she texts Samantha, and they agree to finally meet and have a drink the next night. And so, they've resolved that relationship. The episode basically ends. Carrie has started her new podcast. It's her speed. It's talking about love and the city and topics that mean something to Carrie. She's got listeners calling in that really are interested in what she has to say. And basically she leaves the episode, the season, and the caller with, the fact that love is an interesting thing. Life and love is an interesting thing. And with loss, you will love again. Time will be on your side. Time will be your friend eventually. And the feeling that you have today doesn't inform your future. Have hope. There's always hope that for a brighter day. The past is the past. It's done. There's nothing that you can do about it. Today you can embrace, but the future, and I'm sorry for the shakiness, but the future is unwritten, as she says. That's where we have the most freedom, is in the future. And I love that. That's what really struck me and touched me is that, regardless to what's happened up till now, we have the ability to shape our futures and to start today to make a new path for ourselves. So I really enjoyed this season. It was necessary to catch up with our girls and figure out their next chapter, because some of these life lessons can help inform us. We may not be in New York, we may not be millionaire socialites, but the human condition is the human condition. So at the very, very end, the producer and Carrie have that, passionate spark moment. And just like that, she's off on another romance. Seema has found her love. I love that she's found someone that calls her boss. Perfect. Miranda is off to Hollywood to start a new chapter with Che, who has taken responsibility for this other life that she's derailed. I like that. And I like that Carrie is back to her roots. She's back in love with the city. She's back in love with love, Charlotte has taken charge. She stepped up and became bat mitzvahed and reconfirmed her own passion and conversion to Judaism. And I love that. And so it was a cool season. Share your thoughts. So much has happened. What do you think about Seema's guy? What do you think about this new guy that Carrie is with? If passion is what you're looking for, sister, I support you 100%. And what do you think about the resolution of Miranda going off to Los Angeles with Che? As always, guys, leave your thoughts below in the comments. Give this video a like if you will. And please consider subscribing if you're new. I just started watching Pam and Tommy the other day. The first 3 episodes have dropped on Hulu, and I love the show. So join me for that. I posted my first review yesterday, and next week we'll pick up with episode 4. So catch up and meet me there. And just like that, guys, that's the end of this season. And I'll see you soon. Cheers.